right, let's give this a try. All right, good morning, good morning. So I wanted to talk today about the top 5 things new real estate agents need to do for success. And I keep talking every week, I keep talking to you about your database, add to it. The reason being, we know that at least 75% of your transactions are probably living in there. So we want to build it up. And you don't want to keep talking to the same 5 people. When you do talk to those same 5 people, you want to ask them, who else do you know that I could be talking to? Who else could I be helping? And you're watching for certain triggers. You're watching for diamonds and divorce and death and those kinds of things that happen to people in your sphere, so that you can be there to support them, share information with them, because there is potentially a transaction and a transition that's coming up in their life, and you want to be there to help them. Now, it's easier to start with the people you already know. And I think most of us have done that. We've got your friends, you've got your family, you've got your coworkers that are in there, and that's great and very important. But as you're building out your database, you can't keep asking the same person the same question all the time. Good morning.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Paula.
Hi, Paula. Come on in. I'm Kelly.
Hi.
Hi. If you want to have a seat, we were just getting started.
Nice to meet you.
Hi. There's a camera going. You're not in it.
Okay, good.
Well, you are just now, but right now you're not from where you're sitting. So what we were just talking about, Kaden, this is Paula. Paula,
Hello.
this is Kaden.
Nice to meet you.
So one of the things that I keep talking to are emerging agents, because they're like, what can I do? What do I need to do? You need to build your database.
Yes.
You need to work on getting everything from your phone into Command in a way that makes sense. And for some people, this is how I did it. Everyone is different, but this was part of my building of a database. I had all these people in my phone, and I went to AA, to that very first person, and I called them and checked in, let them know who I was, what I was doing, that I recently got my real estate license. And I was like, I'm working on getting all of the contacts out of my phone and into my database. And I noticed that I've got your name, I've got your number, I've got your birthday. I don't have your email. Can I go ahead and get that? So I was very systematic, working my way through the alphabet, because I don't understand why new agents don't make the phone call, because right now it's not hard for you to come up with something to talk about. Something amazing just happened in your world. You just got licensed. You are ready to help people in a new and different way. So you have news to share. Those first phone calls should be very easy, and it's almost the exact same conversation. Oh my gosh, Paula, we haven't talked for so long. How have you been? Ask about friend, ask about family. Ask about their occupation, ask about their recreation, ask about the different things that they may want to do down the road. What are their big dreams? Like, those are always forward. Family and friends, occupation, opportunity, around recreation and around dreams. So like, what fun things do you have coming up? What do you want to do later? Inside Command, you can keep track of when you called them and what they talked about. There's a little note spot. Maybe they say to you in this conversation, well, our daughter's talking about moving west, and that's going to be really far away when she starts a family. Maybe I want to move out west when I retire so I can be close to the grandbabies. Now, they don't have them yet, and this is down the road, but you now have some information. Mm-hmm. If over the next year, a way for you to stay in contact with them is monthly calls, quarterly calls, just checking in, but also maybe you come across an article talking about how in the Midwest, the new trend is no yard, and they're just putting gravel down, and all the new construction is going to be like that. That's an article that you can send to that person and say, hey, I remember when we talked, you mentioned that you want to retire out west. I saw this article, I thought of you. what you want. Yes, you want people to know that you're a realtor, but people want to do business with who they want to do business with. So if your friendship with this person is based on being helpful, continue to be that person that also is their realtor. So you're talking to these people. So everybody starts with friends and family. That's who's in our phone. Those are the easy conversations. But we need to go deeper than that, because most people only transact a couple of times in their lifetime for a house. So that's great. I know Auntie will use me in 7 years when she looks for her forever home, but how do I get connected to all of Auntie's friends? So asking. Thank you so much, Auntie. I'm curious, do any of the other women in your Mahjong group, are they kind of going through the same thing? Could I maybe bring donuts to Mahjong next time and just introduce myself? A box of donuts, some business cards, and your auntie is there. Do you think she's going to get in your way? Probably not. But I encourage you to think outside the box. That was a very quick thing. Caden has gone back into lacrosse. So we taught rugby, the other one, not football. So he's back in rugby. So we talked last week about what could that look like? How could you get those people as prospects? How could they be potential clients? So we talked, we're like, everybody, they know you, everybody's there, they're hot, they're sweaty, they're hungry. What would it look like to go to Costco and buy a big 40 box of power bars that you take to a game? $15 investment, business cards are on it, people now know. Now, this is where being an entrepreneur needs to become purposeful. An entrepreneur will think to do that one time. Kelly had this great idea, I'm gonna go do it. I'm gonna throw it around. And nothing happened. Darn it, Kelly said something would happen. Nothing happened. Well, you need to be consistent. When you plant seeds, you typically have to do that more than once. When you plant grass, you might have to layer it in multiple times. This is the same thing. Not that, now this is a long game. He's already kind of assessed the team, and he knows that no one's waving a pre-approval letter right this minute. So it's not like he has to do this every single week, but maybe once a month, or maybe next time it's waters.
Yeah.
So just doing those kinds of things. So that's a way to work the people that are in it. You're asking for people that you know to refer. You're getting out in the community. Many of my referrals come from my community involvement. That's on brand for me. It's not hard for me to remember to do these things. That this is part of how I built my business. He has a sporting arena that is a space for him to go to maybe pick up some new leads. Now, once you've got him in here, we're going to start setting up some smart plans. Just because we have them in here, you can't, people have to be told things at least 3 times. So maybe for that first year, your quarterly call is, hey, I think we did talk last time about me being a realtor. You know, I just was kind of checking in. How are things going with you? Have any of the houses in your neighborhood been selling fast? I like to keep my eye on hot neighborhoods. Having conversations about real estate, remind them what you're doing without you constantly asking for business. So we get them in the database. We're going to stay in contact with them. If we've got their email, the more you fill out your database and the more you fill out your phone, you're going to start to get prompts. Mm-hmm. Hey, did you want to follow them on Instagram? Did you want to follow them on Facebook? So now you have a new and different way to be in their vision, in their lives, in their lines. And by offering your expertise, your knowledge, your experience, by sharing things, you're becoming the real estate professional. And that takes time to rebrand. For years, I was Educator Kelly. That is what everybody knew me as. My kid's acting up, I'm going to call Kelly. She's the social emotional person. She knows how to handle these toddlers. So those were the questions that I got. And it took a while for educator Kelly for them to realize now she's educated not only on children, but also real estate. I'm still the educator to them because that's going to be forever to change. Yes. But now they've realized that now I also know about this. And things happen by you just continuing to show up as this person and being willing to answer questions. They feel comfortable reaching out to you because sometimes there is a hesitancy. I might want to sell next year, but I don't want to get salesy right now. I just really kind of like want to know what would it look like for me to sell my home? Like, do I need to do all this stuff? My husband said we need to get new carpet. I don't know if we do. I don't want to be sold right now, but I do have some questions. Paula's been there. Caden's been there. I'm going to reach out to them. And that's what happened. Last year, Kent reassessed their taxes, and I had like 12 people I knew when that letter hit the mailbox. I had a dozen people that called me, and which meant, and I was thrilled, none of them wanted to list. Now that would have been over the moon amazing, but 12 people connected to me, meaning that I was in their phone or close enough that they could find me. They asked about, they're like, do you think I should fight this? We have the opportunity to fight this new assessment. Should I fight it or not? So they knew that I was the local real estate professional. And I was the first person they thought of for this question. And for some of them, I did some market research. And I was like, you know what? I wouldn't fight it because the comps are actually higher. Don't have them raise it more. That was a valuable service that I was able to provide. Yes. And they realized not every realtor is a salesperson.
Yes.
So those 12 people, they found me, and I make sure that I find them also. So it is a massaging and working with your database. But every single person runs into a spot where they're like, gosh, you know, I haven't added 10 new names this week, this month. I need to get really intentional about, I've met people, but maybe I didn't kind of forgot. I didn't get their name. I didn't get their number. I just waved to them and gave them my card. How can I get those names and numbers to come back to me? Maybe I'm like, you know what? Let me text you my contact card. I texted them my contact card. That means I have their information. I need to be intentional about putting this inside Command. I need to keep them in my phone, but also in Command. And think about tagging them and what smart plans I can put them up with. But you want to be growing that database. Gary Keller says you want to have over 1,000 people in that database. And I can tell you, I have worked to weeding out the people that if I don't want to talk to them, I'm not going to be checking in with them. I'm not going to be doing the work with them. Or this was a lead, I got connected with somebody through an open house. I've done my part. I can see that I've been connecting with them. I've been reaching out, and it was kind of like they probably just stopped by for an open house. So I'm going to change how I'm tagging and talking to this person. But shoot, I got to get more people in there so that I'm talking to more people so that opportunity for referral business happens. And this is where people sometimes stumble because we've done all the entrepreneur stuff, what felt easy, organic, natural. Maybe it was a little crazy and chaotic, but it was working. But I need to be more purposeful and actually get some more names and numbers in here. So I brought 2 things to share with you to help jog your memory about the people that you might know that you forgot to talk to. And these are just 2 similar but different versions. But these are amazing memory joggers. And the one that's blocked off, like this, all this small fine print is one. The one that's blocked off, I really like this middle box because this is dual purpose. Who do I know that is? Now, these are some jobs, but there's also some things in there. Who do I know that's a carpenter? Because being a resource to the people in your database might mean that someone calls me and says, hey, this just happened. I just went over to my mother's home that we are prepping to sell, and the dehumidifier hose got plugged, and the floorboards are like this because there was water on them and they have acted up. Who do I know? Well, I actually have a handyman that could do some floors in my phone. But you need to have more than one of those also, because the second I give Danny's number to this client, he's not available to do my work or anybody else's. But this is a great thing. Kate and I were speaking earlier for our power hour. We were talking about you need to have 3 lenders that you work with. How are you going to find those? Well, you might just say, hey, I have this very big brokerage that I'm fortunate to be a part of. And I know that Sean Hadley is an amazing guy. He's at my team meetings. I've got a guy. Well, meet more people. Have some diversity. Not every buyer feels comfortable going to a mortgage broker because they're old school. And they think, well, my entire savings is held at Huntington Bank, so I'm going to go to Huntington Bank. Or we have a lot of educators and community people that belong to a credit union. That's a different kind of lending. Maybe that's a conversation. But you want to be building your resources not only as referral partners, because if you are referring to a lender, what happens if somebody puts the cart in front of the horse and they go to get a pre-approval before they have an agent? Well, have a really clear conversation with this lender, and maybe Sean Hadley might not be the best person, because if Sean Hadley is the top of 40 people's lists, how does he diversify on that one lead he gets? Caden, we've talked a lot about being in Facebook groups and meeting people that way. He found someone, he's going on to meet a lender later today. So he and I talked about what are some questions you can ask, what are some things to figure out. But if we know that we should have at least 3 lenders, having at least 2 or 3 contractors, at least 2 or 3 cleaning services, at least 2 or 3 haul-away people. These are things that come up in a transaction. Your seller could look at you and say, I don't know how I thought I'm going to get this piano out of here. I got a guy. Let me introduce you to at least this. But again, at least introducing to 2 or 3 doesn't show favoritism. It gives you the opportunity to have that many more connections. Mm-hmm. You know, contractor A doesn't need to know that B and C are also on the list. Yep. And you're referring to contractor A, and maybe he remembers you for business. So again, finding these affiliated partners that you can work with is a great way. So when you're doing your memory jogger, not only are you looking for prospects and leads, maybe you're building out your vendor list. The nice thing about a vendor list is it becomes a conversation that you can have with someone. Be like, you know, you could be in the neighborhood walking and you see that someone has got a big dumpster in their driveway. And maybe you don't know that person. And maybe this is completely cold. Have a pocket full of business cards and walk up and be like, I am your neighbor. I'm actually also a realtor. And I noticed that you had a big haul away. What are you doing? See what they tell you. Who knows? They're doing a floor because then they're going to sell next year. But the reason you're asking is to get as much information as you can, but also be like, you know what? This comes up in my business, like where someone asks, like, I need to empty this house. Who are you using? Do you like them? Would you refer them again? Mm-hmm. So you're not coming at them from a sales point. You're coming at them from helping and conversation. You maybe now have a new vendor. You can talk to this vendor now. And he's like, oh shoot, yeah, if you're a listing agent, I'd love to have that. Let's work together. The lender, hey, would you ever be willing to come to an open house with me? Hey, if you're coming to an open house, like, let's split the donuts. I'm a newer agent, you're a newer lender. If we're going to be at the open house together, let's split the price of the donuts and the juice. And that way, if anybody shows up that isn't pre-approved, because that's happening at open houses right now, you could have all that business. So that's a way to do that. And again, this is the power of building out that database. So adding names and numbers to it, keeping it vibrant is important. But these are really helpful. As you're reading this over, you're like, yeah, who do I know that's ex-military? Veterans Day is coming up. Patriots Day just happened. I just did a training on VA lending. Just knowing who I know that has military service, tagging them inside command means that I can look up every single VA tag. And maybe I just send out this, I was just at a training and they have now changed how they do VA appraisal. Blah, blah, blah. Any update you have that's valuable to that person is one more way to reach out, help them. And while you're helping them, you're also helping them remember that you are a real estate agent. So is that kind of helpful? Does that make some sense?
Yeah, all kinds of things are like, oh, that's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah, and that is kind of how I do things. I like it to be interactive. We kind of flex around and doing different things. And I wanted to really talk, and I wanted to bring a different resource, because at this point, if you've been licensed for 2 months and you're still building your business, maybe you are to the point where you're like, oh God, Kelly keeps talking about this database and I got 80 people in it. What does she want from me? I want you to have 180 people and then 380 people. Mm-hmm. So that's why I was like, let's bring these. So that's like a really helpful thing. Another top 5 things that you want to do, you're going to build this database. You also want to master the market, contracts. You want to know how to do your job at a high level. Oftentimes the people that do this job are the kinds of people that learn by doing, which is why I encourage people, when you are building your business, to be in as many conversations with people as possible. Don't not go to a team meeting because you're like, why would I waste an hour? I know all those people. They're not going to give me any business. Potentially true. But an agent up here may not want to drive to Stowe, Ohio to do an opening. They may see you time and time again and be like, you know what? I'm going to refer that to Caden. I will refer that business to Caden. He can do this. He gets a transaction. So being in the same room with other agents makes sense. You also pick up how other people talk. Maybe you weren't able to catch Michael's market summation yesterday. Well, let's talk about it. What did happen? Being in the room gives you also practice with these conversations. I didn't always know how to answer every single question in a smooth and eloquent way. Mm-hmm. I had to fail fast and fail forward, which means that I had to still do the conversation. I can't hide. I can't not pick up the phone because I'm scared. Mm-hmm. So I have to get better at this conversation, which for me meant I had to do it. I had to practice it. I couldn't just watch a YouTube video on how to do it. I actually had to do the work. So making the phone calls, doing the text, sending the email are all ways for you to master your way to communicate your conversation. But it also, you want to understand how to do all of the parts of your job and answer those questions. So that is something that we're going to do. I'm going to have people bring in their computers, or I'm going to figure out how I can cast mine to the big screen so that we can go through a purchase agreement. Because the question, you're going to do this and you're going to send it, and then they're going to call you, and you're going to be driving and you're not going to have it in front of you, and they're going to ask you to answer a question, and they're reading it word for word, and you don't have it in front of you, and you maybe aren't ready to answer that question yet. So going through the buyer agency agreement, going through the contract, going through, these are all the documents that buyers need to know and understand. These are all the documents that sellers need to know and understand. That's something that I'm here to help you do. Now, obviously, this is all wonderful and it's training, and you're an entrepreneur, which means it's kind of washing over you. And what's going to happen is you're going to have to write an offer on a Saturday at 2, and that's when you're going to text me your question, because you're going to be like, I kind of remember. And then I'm going to say, remember, we filmed it, go to Agent 297. You're going to look it up, and you're still going to text me. And that's totally fine. But it's going to take at-bats to get to a pro level. So do not be afraid of what you don't know. Continue to put yourself into those arenas so that you have the opportunity to practice and become a pro. And everyone is different. So you don't want, there are scripts out there. In fact, when I first became an agent, I was handed a binder that had pages of scripts. And that's what they said. And they said, let's do script practice. Scripts are stilted. I instantly failed at that. I read them, understood it, and then tried to make it my own. I had another agent that was emerging at the same time. We had it set up in our calendars where twice a week. I called one day, they called the other. Whoever answered the phone was the client, and it was our job to be a handful for the person that was making the phone call. And they would read the script, read the script. And I can't see her, I'm on the phone with her, but I know she's reading the script. And the quickest way to dysregulate her would be like, oh, you know what, you just caught me, I'm in a nudist colony. I mean, the most off the cuff thing. And the thing is, for the first couple of weeks, everybody's being really nice. And we're not actually acting like the people that we're worried about talking to. What we're afraid of is somebody's going to say, I don't want to be sold to, this is silly.
Don't call me.
That's
again.
what we're afraid of.
Yep.
Well, when you're doing script practice with somebody else, rarely do they do that. But what we've started to realize at KW is that we start to call them conversations. Really understand the matter and what you're trying to answer and convey, but also read the person that you're talking to and give them the information they need. Sometimes they are worried about timeline. Ask more questions and answer the questions that they have. But practice and understand so that you can have these conversations. Read purchase agreements so you understand how to write it, because there's going to be an occasion where in the note on the listing, it says that the seller will convey the property point of sale compliant. Well, I really want to do what's best for my client, and I need to make that a contract point. Where do I put that? I want to make sure it happens. They promised it in the listing, but that doesn't mean that it's going to happen in the contract. I want to make this contract point because it's what's best for my client. Where do I put that? How do I put that? How do I fill this out? When do I answer this question? So, being able to go through all of this and fill them out and understand them is really, really important. You want to master the market, you want to know your contracts. So, look into it, ask questions, because that confidence that you have is trustworthy.
Right.
The very first house I ever sold was a for sale by owner, where I represented the buyer. He still wanted to represent himself. There was no dual agency. He did not have an agent. So I was the only agent in the transaction. So right away, the way Dotloop set up my agency disclosure statement was wrong, because it automatically pops it in. When you autofill, it puts it in that first box, which isn't what was happening on this transaction. I was doing something different. Luckily, just because it filled it in didn't mean it was right. And I read it twice and made sure, and then changed it to make it appropriate for this first transaction. And because it was a for sale by owner, there were all these other things that I needed to navigate. My client didn't know this was the first transaction that I'd ever done that was for sale by owner. Because I had enough familiarity with it that I was able to catch what could potentially be problems, questions, or concerns. So again, they had confidence in me because I made it my job to understand this paperwork. Because I want to be able to answer questions. That's me. And that's already, the people that know, like, and trust me know that I answer questions and educate people. So they're going to ask questions. Hi, Marty. All right. So when we talk about the market, knowing the market, sitting in on team meetings gives you market updates, because our vendors come out and they talk to us. They let us know, hey, this recently happened on title and there's been a shift. They prepare us for that. Our lenders prepare us for these things. So they're talking about these different things. If you're going to go out and meet a buyer or a seller, knowing right now, hey, this is the best time for you to sell. There are no 4-bedroom homes for sale in Stowe. You literally would be it when you came to market. That's helpful. That shows that you know this market. Now, this could be the first time you've transacted in Stowe, but you knew where you were going, so you did the research and prepared, and you looked up the MLS and you looked to see what is available in Stowe. Now, the one thing that buyers and sellers do have at their disposal that makes them think that they know a little something about real estate is Zillow. Yes. Every single listing appointment I go to, I take a screenshot of what Zillow says that house is valued at that day. Sometimes I've already taken it too when I took the call, and I can show the change in, and sometimes it's close and sometimes it isn't. But that's not my market research. That's me using the one tool that a seller might have. They may have thought to themselves, well, hey, I'm going to look it up myself. Yes. I'm going to go to the Zillow. But being able to talk, so you being on the same page with that little bit of information, already they're like, oh, I know this, they know this. We're smart. But you being able to go one step deeper and say, I actually did some comps. And on this one, Zillow's kind of close to right, which is weird because there's lots of class action suits against Zillow because they over and undervalue things. So it's not always a good litmus test, but I'm glad you looked at that, because a buyer might also do that to get an idea of price. But we're also going to use market research. So you can look like the market professional by just doing a little bit of preparation. Use the tools that we have and realize the tools that they have.
I actually didn't realize that Zillow's market changed. Like, what's there? I didn't know that till you just said that.
So they're pulling, and now here's another thing, this is not about this, but just something that I do. I pull comps when I go and do my listing appointment. And if it's going to be a month until we actually bring it to market, they've got to do things. Well, when I did my comps, I know that this house and this house are under contract currently. Well, in the next month, they may close, and they may close over or under, and that comp might go up, it might go down. So I tell my sellers, this is what I do. We're going to talk about it today, but we're going to make sure our numbers still make sense in a month. And here's why we do that. I'm showing my value. I'm showing my information. I'm having these conversations, and they're like, oh my gosh, I never even thought of that. That's right. I'm the full-time real estate agent at the table. It's my job to worry about that for you. It's part of what I do. It's part of my market value. This is how I earn my commission, you know? But recognizing that knowledge, and I was terrified. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't have all the square footage and everything memorized. Well, that's on my phone. I don't need to know the actual square footage of this property right now because I can get that information. But I do need to know, well, this house is bigger than most. This house is on a bigger lot than most. I need to be able to provide some feedback showing that I too see this individual house. Again, showing my knowledge. We talked about the database and how important that is to build that sphere. Item number 3 is to commit to lead gen daily. Lead generation daily. Now, most of the time, people are like, phone calls, right? And that is lead generation. And that is the one thing that people don't necessarily always want to do, is make the phone call. But this is your business. Your business actually, it's very important to know how to do offers, how to navigate a sale transaction, a buy transaction. These are all the things that a real estate agent does. But your actual business, the health of your business is measured by your database and how you're continuing to build that, how you generate leads, how you communicate and talk to that database. That is an appointment that you need to keep with yourself every single day. Or I say every single day. Some agents say Monday through Friday. Some agents are dual career agents, and right now they commit to it twice a week. No matter what your lead generation schedule looks like, it is imperative that it be in your calendar. If it isn't in your calendar, it does not happen at all. It needs to be how you structure and build your day. And it needs to be a very important appointment that you do not cancel. You can reschedule it, but it becomes a slippery slope. If you say every morning, I am going to spend 2 hours on lead generation, I am going to make phone calls, I am going to send out a group email to my veterans, like plan it, just like your grocery store list. I mean, we've all gone to the grocery without the list and it's a mess.
Yeah.
We spend way too much money, we're there way too long, and we forgot the one thing that we were there for. So having a goal and a plan, don't just say it, okay, well, I'm gonna lead gen 8 to 10 every Monday. Well, what does that actually look like? Because then you sit there for 2 hours and you're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So these are different ways that you can lead gen. You can make phone calls. You can email. You can specifically, like really specifically email. Like sometimes we're just like, hey, all the buyers, here we go. But when I talked about like maybe the veteran tag with a veteran update, or the retirement tag with retirement lending, so those really specific things. Email. Maybe I'm going to text 10 of who's my number one Browns fan from my memory jogger. Let's talk about the Browns game. It's Monday. Every Monday, I'm going to reach out to 10 of my Browns fans that I know on social media and in my phone, and I'm going to just check in with them and talk about the game. I'm going to schedule some posts, some really helpful I'm a realtor posts with intentionality. I am going to look to see what's coming up this week. Where's an opportunity for me to show up as a realtor? I told Kaden that until my Saturdays were completely eaten up by clients, I was like, wait a minute, busy real estate agents aren't typically sitting around on Saturdays. I need to be doing something. I need to be doing something that has me out in the community. I need to be looking like I'm doing the thing. So I would get up and get dressed, and I'd go to the farmer's market. And I'd have a pocket full of business cards, and I would wait for the opportunity, or we're at the farmer's market. We're not talking about houses right now, but if I saw somebody with a dog, I was loving on that dog. Brimfield bread oven is one of my favorites. I'm going to talk to people in line about that. Do you live in the area, or do you come in just for the bread? These are sneaky questions that don't scream, I'm a realtor, but allow you to slide in like a covert agent.
Yes.
All right? So commit to the time. And then have a plan for it. So every week I send out the DTD2, which is it's a way to very systematically touch your database 4 times with a phone call, twice a year with a text. So there's 6 times that you could touch your database just by going by the letter of their last name. And we rotate through that, and every week I put that out into the group text of who to talk to. So by Wednesday, if you haven't talked to D and T on the phone and you haven't texted H, here's your reminder to do that. And you're like, okay, I'm going to put that in my calendar on Friday. I'm going to do that. So not only scheduling the time, but planning for how you're going to use that time. And I encourage you to do more than just phone or text or talk, because the more ways that you reach out, they're like octopus arms. They get you into more places and create your brand in a more diverse way. If you rely on phone, text, and conversation, that's great. That's connection, and that's important. But what happens if you have your knee replaced and you are home for 3 months and you can't be out having the conversation at the farmer's market? Okay, how else can I keep my business going? So high producing agents typically have more than 2 kinds of lead generation. And again, entrepreneurs do what's easy and feels organic. And so that's where our 2 to 3 things that we typically do come from. But being more purposeful is what breaks through that glass ceiling and gets you to the next level. So being purposeful means that you want to sharpen your sword in a couple of other arenas. So his very intentional and meaningful and important to him, going to rugby games, I'll get it. Going to rugby game, that's a different way for him to be out in the community. I am a huge volunteer, a huge service-hearted person. So I sit on boards, and every single person on the board knows that I am a real estate agent, and it's understood. And so my lead generation with that group is, oh, hey, I'm going to see these people next week. Mm-hmm. I want to spend some of my lead gen time getting something together to give to them. Because at our last meeting, we talked about this. It gives me an ability to come from a place of contribution. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time working on this very specific lead gen for that group. What do you do, Paula? Are you a full agent or are you a dual agent?
I'm a dual agent. I am a office assistant at the Meta Recreation Center.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, a lot of people coming in and out of there, so definitely a good opportunity for
Great.
connecting with people.
Okay. So with that in mind, and with like Caden has a full-time job, so he one of the things that he was able to do is he was able to adjust his schedule so that he has Wednesdays off. So Wednesdays are his I'm an agent day. So he comes here because that's something that we talk about is a really important need, is having an accountability partner, because that's hard for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But, so he's like, all right, on Wednesdays, this is what I do. But sometimes on Wednesdays, he's already done his DT, D2. So he's not just lead generating on Wednesday. He has it in his schedule that on Monday or Tuesday is when I'm going to make my phone calls. And then maybe when we're together at group coaching, I'm going to get a new idea that I'll kind of work in to the next week. But treat this like a job. I jokingly say that I'm the jerk that I work for. Sometimes when I walk around, I'm like, who scheduled this 7:30 p.m. listing appointment? It was me. I'm the jerk that I work for. But I also know the reason I'm doing what I do. I know what my big one thing is and why I'm doing this. And so sometimes I'm a jerky boss. But that owning your calendar is really important. And when you're a dual agent, in a way, it's a little bit more important because you have even less time to waste. So you have to be really intentional. You have to underline that idea. You have to have a sharp point when you deliver it. So, and not everyone, I always say, I like to move the heavy rocks in the morning. Not everyone does that. And that is fine. Some people are like, I like to do it in the evening. Pick what works for you and then curate your business and your brand around that. If calling people at 6:30 at night is what makes more sense for you and your schedule, then that's a different conversation too. Yeah. Maybe you talk, maybe at lunch is when you go out and you're walking with the people and that's when you guys talk about your real estate career. So it's a way to be with them, but not. So think about ways, and if you need help, that's what I'm here for. Let's figure out how we can get some really intentional lead generation in mind. Because right now, most agents are kind of like, ooh, I want to get one more before the end of the year. Summer's very busy and your business kind of gets its own wheels. But if you haven't been building that business all summer, you're like, gosh, the last thing I have under contract's getting ready to close and I don't know where my next deal is coming from. Back to basics, back to boot camp. Which every agent, we grow and come back. And shrink and expand, it's normal. So, around time, just for a second. When I started, I was a full-time agent and I did lead generation from 9 to 12. And sometimes 3 hours was not enough and sometimes 3 hours was way too much. And that's when I started to develop other ways because it was in my calendar and I wasn't messing around. I bothered to schedule that and I knew that I needed to do this. And I had accountability. I needed to look across the table at my husband and tell him that I did the work that building this new business looked like. I wanted my daughter to see what it looks like to be a female-owned business. So I really did do the thing. And then you started to get a little bit busier and I was like, okay, well, wait a minute. I now need to start doing showings at 11 instead of 12. Well, I'm not going to erase. I'm going to replace. I'm going to move that. So, okay. So I'm going to do my phone calls in the morning and then that other hour, that might be happening at 7:30 or 8:30 at night because it's after appointments. Well, I want to teach my clients how to treat me, and I don't necessarily want to be on the phone always at 8:30 at night.
Right.
But I can email. I can spend an hour creating really important emails and send that out to people. Everybody's on social media at 8:30 at night. What does it look like if I who am never on Facebook go to Facebook and answer and respond, and not like thumbs up, but really comment. Try to get a conversation going inside social media. Who do I have that liked my picture? Do I need to go respond to? So again, there's still a way to do it, and that was a different thing. But it's still about being intentional. And so you don't, maybe 3 hours doesn't make sense for you. If it's really very hard, maybe 30 minutes, and that's the commitment that you make for the first month. You're like, okay, I'm going to spend 30 minutes from 8 to 8:30 calling people to get them from my phone and into my database. And I'm going to do 15 minutes at lunch. Maybe that's where you start. I would rather you set a smaller goal that you do than a big goal that looks amazing, but you're just not ready for it right this minute. And that big goal doesn't go away forever.
Right.
But maybe right now is not the time. But it was a good idea. You thought of it, so bring it back around. All right, number 4. Find a mentor, find a coaching system, have an accountability partner. Well, you're emerging agents. You already have that. You already have this resource, which is lovely. But I'm not always with you. So meet other agents that are on the same level with you. And maybe phone calls are really hard and you don't want to do it. Maybe they don't want to either, but at least with you two, you're like, God, let's just do it. Let's just get 15 minutes of phone calls. So having an accountability partner. I talk to agents that have been in the biz for a while and their business has kind of slowed down. When I was at the clam bake on Friday, I was talking to agents that are like, I am back to, I think I need a coach. And this is someone that's had their license for 2 years, 5 years. Sometimes you just need to jump back into coaching to get some new ideas, to have a different accountability partner, to rise again and become your next best person. So have that. But be accountable to yourself first, which means that every Sunday for me, I'm looking at my calendar and I'm looking to see all of the things that I am already committed to. And I am texting all the people that have a birthday that week, getting that out of the way. Boom. I'm checking in and reinforcing things, and I'm really looking at my calendar and is this going to work? Because maybe I'm going to need to actually kind of adjust a couple of things. I do that for myself. And when I don't, I'm disappointed in myself because I know that I really should. And having somebody else there. Because my husband Sean doesn't notice on Sunday if I don't do it, but I have a different energy on Thursday and he'll see it then and he'll be like, oh, how did Sunday go for you? So again, having that accountability is because everybody wants to work for themselves and we don't want to work for the man, but somebody has to be the man.
Yes.
We still have to have that. Bills still coming, you still have to pay. It costs money to be a real estate agent. It's not sustainable if you're not doing anything else except paying for your license. So I got to start with me. Start with what you can do. And then number 5, treat it like a business, not a hobby. I really, really, really wanted to come in here today wearing comfy sweatpants and a sweatshirt. I really did. I didn't sleep well. I mean, I'm a human. Everybody has all the things. But you don't need me to be a human. You need me to be a real estate advisor, agent, and coach. So I'm going to put on some big kid clothes and I'm going to come and I'm going to show up and I'm going to do the thing. I treat this like it's important. Now, hobbies are fun, and I do think that this is fun. Ask me again why I love what I do is a common phrase, but it still is important. I'm still putting in the time. I'm still doing the work. I'm still making sure that I grow, because The market stat that I learned my first year is no longer a valuable tool for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a hobby. I need to constantly be leveling up. And Keller Williams, you know, in coaching and things, they talk about the glass ceiling, and you're supposed to break through that, and then that becomes your floor, and you start again. Being a producing agent does take a level of intentionality. It takes a high level of professionalism. It takes a high level of commitment. Don't be afraid to do that, because you will notice that 20% of agents do 80% of the work. There are lots of agents that they do a transaction every quarter. That's what they do. That's the workload they want. That's what they want their business to look like. That's what fits into their life, and they're very happy doing that. And then there are agents that this is a full-time job, and the big thing that I'm doing is for my family, for my retirement, for my life. So I'm working as hard as I worked for someone else, except for it's with me. You know, like now it's me, which means that when you are in a business, they grow you, they professionally guide you, they invest in you yearly, quarterly, weekly, however they do that. So again, this is my business, not a hobby. I need to invest in myself. So doing things like Kate and I were talking before you got here about the business planning clinic. It's 6 hours. It makes me want to hit myself in the face. I do not like that part of it. Numbers are very important and they're reasonable. But the thing that I want to run away from is the thing that sometimes I need to be running to.
Yeah.
And I've done this before, and the first time it just kind of washed over me like it was a different language. And then the second time I had a little bit more, and I learned some insight from my own, and I was able to do it. And then the third year, I was like, Kelly, you want to do this? And I, I got really intentional about it. I treated it like it was a business. The numbers part, it's all really fine and good. Be like, oh, it's over here. But it is an important part of it. And that's when I decided how I was going to enter this year as a business. And I decided that it was very important for me to show up and donate and do things. And because I had done a year of vision boarding about my business, I had decided that if I got this many transactions in the first quarter, that would release enough money that I could reinvest it for the next quarter. And what was that investment going to look like? And so I got very intentional about that. And I have honored all of those things, plus one or two that I was able to add in. Because I spent some time getting deep and dirty with stuff I didn't want to think about, I learned and I remembered, and I was able to do that plus some extra. So doing those kinds of things means that, again, sometimes you're not going to want to do it. But
Right.
Again, that's a hobby. A profession isn't always that. So I encourage you to think of it that way. And even when it is a dual career, even when it is still, because we are heading into a really amazing time after COVID. There's so many people that are like, forget it, I'm not working 40 hours a week for that. I'm gonna have 2 side hustles. I love to make cookies, and I'm gonna have a cookie business, and I'm gonna work part-time. Again, you can do all of those things. Real estate is amazing. When this opportunity came up, my husband looked at me and said, 85-year-old Kelly could be a coach. All you need is an RV and really good Wi-Fi. And he's right. Knowing that you've landed in a profession that you truly get to decide what your personal business looks like, you truly get to decide how hard you're going to commit and work to it, is amazing. And I did a transaction when I was in Italy. And I was like so afraid to go. And I also realized that, you know what, it's not going to fall apart. I have people that I can leverage. I had a coach. I had people that I could have gotten help from. And I still was able to jump on Wi-Fi, send some stuff through Dotloop, respond by email. I still was able to do my job. And that was an important lesson for me to learn.
Awesome.
It was incredibly liberating.
Mm-hmm.
And it's wonderful. And again, ask me why I love what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I truly get to decide the jerk that I work for. So those are like the top 5 things that I would recommend. But like the bonus, and I say this all the time, like when we talk about, you know, what are our big things, I always, you know, customers come first and all of this. I am very client focused. That's important. But what that ends up working, how that works for me, is that this year I have done repeat transactions and referral business more than I've done up to this point, because clients like, know, and trust me.
Mm-hmm.
Now that takes time, and I realize that I'm sitting in front of you with a couple of years under my belt, and you guys have a couple of weeks, months under your belt. But I built the business that I'm working right now from day one by doing the things that I talked about and have shared with you. And I like let you look behind the curtain. I'm like, this is how I have done this. This is how my brand feels comfortable and convenient for me. But they already know me. They like me and they trust me. They appreciate my service, the work that I do, and the fact that because I have a guy, you know, which means that I talked to them in 6 months when they needed to put their handrail up. And of course I followed up with them after they closed, but it's been a little bit. So they're calling me, so that gives me a great chance. How's the house? How are the neighbors? What's going on? Who do I need to get moved out of your neighborhood? Who's a pain in your butt that you don't want to talk to anymore? Mm-hmm. Like, again, it gave me a chance to kind of talk a different way. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe if I get 3 more closings, that neighborhood is the neighborhood that I'm going to postcard. When I did her market research, there wasn't a lot of transactions happening. It's still not happening. Maybe they just need to know. Maybe I'm going to focus on this neighborhood. I have great stats that I can talk about. I know the area. I got people there that talk about me. Maybe this is where I get intentional about marketing. And it's because of that. So the one question that I kind of want you to take away is, who do I want, besides Kelly, who else could I maybe have as an accountability partner? And it could be me, but I want you to have another. Backup plan is always good. Mm-hmm. And I want you to ask yourself too, what relationship can I nurture this week? Caden thought about what I said about having vendor lists, so he's kind of nurturing those relationships. And we had some talking points about how to maybe strengthen that conversation. And again, I was kind of his accountability partner because I looked at him and said, well, what questions do you have for her? Which led him to believe, well, shoot, I should have some questions for her. And he started to get all those questions together, having that level of intentionality. So those are relationships he wants to nurture. And maybe because of what you're doing, mm-hmm. and this being so new, maybe you start with your work relationships first. Because they know, they trust you already. Mm-hmm. And maybe you say, hey, I'm starting this out as like a dual career agent. I'm gonna have to like double time it. And you know what? I need you guys to be like ask me some real estate stuff. Like, I want to be the first person you think of when it comes to real estate. So if you read something over the weekend, ask me about it. Something happened to your house, ask me about it. If I don't know the answer, I'm gonna find it out. But I wanna practice being that resource for people. All right. Okay. Well, this would be amazing if we actually have this all recorded.